What is up, everyone? What is up? Happy Monday to everyone. Although, I don't know how long this stream will be tonight because, not feeling exactly 100%. Let's just say that, the amount of propulsion that I've been able to generate out my ass is about equal to SpaceX launches with a rocket and just about as disastrous. Thank you. I'm here till Thursday. Tip your weight, just try the veal. What's everyone up to, though? So, we do have some videos I wanted to check out before possibly I go into a little gaming on Linux segment, and we have a battery to replace. So, if you remember, when I was at DEF CON, I had mentioned that, this laptop here, which I've had for a couple of years, by the way, was having issues, and the actual battery life is down, well, the battery health is down to like 40%. So it's about time to replace this laptop. Not laptop, but the battery in it. And as you know, I like Right to Repair, and System76 is one of those companies that actually supports Right to Repair. And all you have to do is look up their instructions, and, you know, you'll see battery part numbers and everything that you actually need to replace a lot of the components. What do you think of the Turn file system? I talked about this already in the past couple of streams. It was mentioned. It looks nice for what it is, but the average person isn't going to touch it. It's designed for file systems that are going to be rather immutable and never really change files. So, for things that need an audit trail, really great. For the average everyday user, you're really not going to care. As far as hard drives, as far as file systems go, Extended 4 is still more than enough for the average person. ZFS, if you're wanting to do some, you know, RAID across things, because the interesting thing, and I actually was talking to somebody about this, RAID cards themselves have fallen out of favor in the past few years, and more in favor of software RAID. Now, the whole idea of a RAID card to have dedicated processing for your RAID processing, you know, across different disks, was a great idea back in the day when you had limited CPU cycles, and, you know, RAID was a very computationally complex task. But now CPUs very often have so much leftover unused CPU power that it's really not an issue. So, yeah. So this right here is my System76 laptop, which I don't use as much as I used to, but it is definitely my laptop that's in my rotation for Parent OS. So I do still use it. It's just not maybe my regular everyday carrier. Now I would also like to get a new laptop with that AMD Strix Halo that we were looking at the other night, because it seemed to be very powerful for what I would need. And honestly, if DaVinci Resolve has resolved their issues with requiring NVIDIA GPUs only on Linux, then I could go full AMD on some of the newer stuff if I got H.265 encoding. And that would be nice to see AMD actually in some proper competition with NVIDIA, because right now NVIDIA still has the crown when it comes to the high performance stuff. Best website builder? Just open up Notepad and put it in HTML and make a CSS file. I'm kidding. That's not really that great of an idea anymore. I mean, a lot of people go to WordPress. It's straightforward, it's effective to be built on, although there was some definite drama when it came to the, the WordPress Foundation and that whole kerfuffle of, well, Matt Mullenweg kind of getting to be a greedy bastard, for lack of a better way to say it. but it works out okay. There's also like Ghost and stuff like that, but WordPress, for the most part, is still one of the most widely used and extensible website designers and everything these days. Now, that's not to say that, you know, I love it. It's just what's one of the most visible. So, did you eat Taco Bell? No, I did not eat Taco Bell. I had Indian. Alright, so let's get the battery replaced over here. So as we can see, it's not glued down. System 76 truly does design this to be replaceable. So let's grab the other battery over here. This one was made in 2023, a couple years after my laptop's apparent release date. And let's line up. Yep, looks like everything lines up. That was exactly the right model. Dreamweaver 8. Man, I haven't heard of Dreamweaver in so many years. I remember that was the shit when people were, you know, trying to make websites themselves. That was like old school design. Oh, I think I have the connector upside down. Trying to determine which way I want to bend that. Alright. Okay. Looks like that's good. We got the connector in. Let's get this guy taped down. They have a little piece of tape over here to keep this in check. I'm gonna keep that over here. Or you know what? It's just gonna stay right there. We'll just bend it in place because that tape no longer has any adhesion. That should work fine when I get the case back in. Notepad with CSS. Yeah, that's how a lot of us started our web design path when we were doing it. We'd get a notepad and we'd figure it out. And most of us started in my generation by tweaking with our MySpace profiles. If you don't remember MySpace, that was like OG social media for my generation. And you know what? Tom never betrayed us like Zuckerberg did. Tom just wanted to be your friend. So I think we're good on that battery over there. Let's get the case back down. I've been hearing good things about framework laptops for the past few years. I just still haven't gotten around to jumping on that bandwagon. Primarily because I get Linux laptops, and I know some people throw Linux on them and they say it's fine and everything. I just prefer to go with vendors that actually contribute to Linux in various ways. What's the difference gaming concepts never made? What do you mean by that? Show me the ways of Linux. I'd like to get proficient in scripting. Well, you don't really need to script as much anymore in Linux like you used to. It's actually become a pretty well-rounded operating system that a lot of people can actually use a Linux system and never actually code a thing. And case in point, for those of you like, no, I don't believe you. What is Android? What is Chrome OS? Now, as far as scripting, that's not really Linux specific. You can do a lot of scripting in Mac, in Windows, because in Windows you have PowerShell and Batch. In Mac you also have shell scripts, just like in Linux. And a lot of people, honestly, don't get past the GUI even in Windows, and you'd be surprised how powerful Windows is when you learn how to script things with PowerShell. Autocorrect, what's the best kind of gaming concepts never made? Kind of like those mouse guns. Gun mouse. I don't know about never made, but I did like the whole, like, gun you could point at the TV that no longer works with non-CRT TVs. Advice for learning C#. I've never done, like, C and stuff like that. But back to the scripting point, Python's probably one of the best things that you'll learn, because I know people talk a good game about Go and things like that. The reality is, most business environments are more leaning towards Python than any other scripting language. I wonder how much juice is in this battery. The charger's here somewhere. But best gaming concepts never made. Not really the ones that have never been made that are the issue. It's the ones that have been made and we still don't see anymore. Like, I think it was a Lord of the Rings game somebody released a long time ago that had a mechanic where every time you came back, it remembered you and the choices you made and all of that stuff, and the NPCs would adapt to you. That would be great, because I'd like to have a more immersive type of game environment, if anything. What are your thoughts on when cloud gaming will be better than consoles? It won't ever. Here's the reality. Latency's the thing. Now, it's great for a lot of people that don't have access to a lot of higher-end hardware. Don't get me wrong. It's great for that. But at the end of the day, you're never going to beat the performance of locally run games. That's just the unfortunate truth. Yeah, latency is a killer. Google data center tech here, trust. Yeah, a lot of people really downplay how much latency there is to go between your home and just the nearest Google data center. And if people are already talking about input lag on your controllers and stuff like that, latency over a network connection is going to be brutal. Best mobile router is a DIY router, the way to go for mobile gaming. Well, again, mobile is only going to be it's only going to be capable of so much, because if you're talking mobile like a 5G or something like that, you're going to still have a good amount of latency. You can build it yourself, that's not too much of an issue, but yeah. Okay, so this battery definitely needs to be charged. But we got 100% capacity. Cool. So let me see if I can grab a power adapter out here. Do I have one down there? Maybe. Let me see if I can find a power adapter. Hold on. I know I had one out here. I think this is the one. Okay, there's an extra cable that I had over there I didn't need. So I think this is the adapter to this. Yeah, it's a... Yep, that's the one. Alright, let's see now. Okay, I need to find a spare connection over here. Bear with me. Things I should have done before stream for 300, Alex. The hell? I definitely need to clean that screen off. Looks like I got some solder flux or something on that. Alright. Hooray! It's charging. Okay, so we've got the Parrot OS laptop charging now. That is great. So as we can see over the screen on here, we just replaced the battery really easily. This is the OG battery, manufactured in October of 2021. This one I think is September of 2023. System 76 actually documents part numbers and everything, so I could easily replace it. It's the same exact battery, just this one was depleted to around 40% of its capacity. So I noticed when the battery was not holding its charge, that was a serious issue. Because at DEF CON I basically was tethered to a battery. But as you can see, it's charging right now, so I'm going to give it a full charge and try that out tomorrow before I go out. But as you can see, capacity is now at 100%. So, really quick, simple replacement, as you can see, with the System 76. Took me almost no time. Just popped out the bottom lid and then 4 screws to get to the battery, another however many screws on the bottom of it. I've been on stream only 20 minutes, started that roughly not too long ago, and boom, Bob's your uncle. They're gonna show ads on a fridge, that doesn't surprise me. How do you feel about Parrot compared to Raw Debian? So I use Parrot OS on this laptop because it has a bunch of the ethical hacking tools and stuff out the box. But as far as Raw Debian, I like Debian too. I have a laptop upstairs that runs pure Debian, a small laptop over there. Let me get some updates going, because this laptop hasn't been on since before DEF CON. Okay. So the only thing that I don't really care about with System 76, and this is one of those really, really petty things, you can't customize the laptop nearly as much as you can like Tuxedo Computer or Nova Custom. It's a very, very petty thing, I know, but I'm getting to the point in my life when I would like a clean laptop, not with somebody else's brand, like Dell, Lenovo, HP, and would like to put my own brand or something like that, like I did on my Tuxedo laptop. Where is my Tuxedo laptop? There's my Tuxedo laptop. See, like, that, I could get that ordered, and even the start button. No, just put the sticker on is not the answer. I don't want a sticker. I want to have it branded. What, you're gonna tell me to, like, put a sticker on the start button too? No, I'm just gonna have my logo put on the start button, or the super key in Linux as we call it. I think we're now at the day and age these days where you should be able to have it as a feature that if you want to pay a little bit more, you can customize your laptop to however you want. The Tuxedo seems very streamer friendly, no unpaid promotion of items. Yeah, I would like to be partnered up with them, though. But that's the same thing as like me if I got partnered up with System 76, is because I actually like their stuff. Should probably move the mic as well. I mean, I got System 76 keyboards, love them. I have a System 76 laptop, which we're setting up here. Had this laptop for, I think, close to 5 years now. It's still a great laptop. Put your face on a laptop. Technically, I did, with my logo, just penguin. Some of y'all will jump out and say, no, you know, you just went the furry route. I'm not a furry. What was the most low-level thing you wrote? I've written some basic C on an Arduino just to see it and then do that kind of thing. That's about it. You operate your own business? No. I mean, technically the streaming and content creation is its own business, but yeah. Not a furry, says the guy using a penguin. Hey, that is Tux. Do not disrespect the Tux. Got a Victus laptop with some dumb square, which is fine. Never heard of Victus. Yeah, looking for freelance work is all. Freelance is really hard to come by these days. You basically have to go out there and network and know a lot of people to be able to have enough jobs to actually warrant it. I freelance on the side with a few other things, like, I actually have, been hired by a group to educate their users in their nonprofit about different security things because, let's just say the Trump administration has put a lot of people on edge about, you know, people wrongfully being, having them go after and all that. Like, hell, I've had some of my own family, apparently, because they're a little bit more brown than myself, get chased down. Games will be tougher to run on Linux because of lack of support. No, that's not true. The support's there. The only thing stopping gaming on Linux is kernel-level anti-cheat, which I wouldn't want to install anyway. But now that multi-kernel is starting to become a thing, you could easily run a kernel that has the kernel-level anti-cheat just for the gaming, shut it down, and then have the rest of your system there. We'll be playing Borderlands in a little bit. Had that working since day zero. Feel like the next 2 years will be the last chance to start self-hosting without barriers. There are already barriers as it is right now. I mean, email is already one of the services I've been telling people for years. Don't do it unless you want to make it a full-time job. There's just so many hoops you have to jump over. And I say that as someone that ran my own email server for about 10 years. Because of Trump's tantrums, Australia has gone back to the roots. People who dislike him are now terrorists. Know of any graphene-adjacent alternatives for Samsung devices? Nope. So, I remember even when I got into it with some of the developers on Graphene OS, I use it myself, but then, yeah. The reason why they go with the Pixel is it's actually got a secure enclave, and it is a more secure design device than the Samsung Knox BS they have, which I forgot the specifics. One of my friends was telling me about it when I was at DEF CON, but it's not as secure as they let on. But yeah. What are your thoughts on ICE getting that contract with Paragon, getting that crap? Yeah, ICE got into some malware that, is no bueno. I know that. Non-tech people trying to justify kernel anti-cheat will be the death of us. Well, yeah. These are the same schmucks that a few years ago would have probably said the internet isn't ever going to be, you know, that major of an innovation. Nobody's really going to need the internet. Like Paul Krugman trying to cite Metcalfe's law in the 1990s. And who was wrong about that? The problem is with the world is that you have a bunch of people that don't know the crap they're talking about, trying to push through things that we know won't work in the real world. Like, what was I gonna say? Like all these, you have all these people going about, like, saying, oh, you know, we need to protect children, so we're gonna do all these irrelevant things, that won't actually protect children, but will censor adults. They're offlining 3G internet. Good! It's got security issues. That should be off, that should go away. Okay, this laptop is now up to date. And the battery is still showing 100% capacity. It's going to take a little over an hour to fully charge. Alright. So I can shut that guy down. So that's mission success on that. Can get a couple more years of use out of this laptop here. It's a nice laptop. I haven't had any complaints with it. Talking about the UK age restriction thing. Well, there's also the EU trying to do their chat control thing. There's the US with the Screen Act, with COSA, with the FADPA, the Beard Act. There's various states, like Texas had Senate Bill 20. Michigan is trying to push this morality law that'll even, like, go after VPNs and fine people $500,000. Not insane. Go look it up. That's all happening. Do I think the Michigan law is going to pass? No. But there are some serious concerns to be had when it comes to your privacy rights and everything there. And the internet is going crazy. 3G cell service is required in Canada. Most of the country doesn't even have LTE. Well, yeah, that's because, you know, you're not even a real country anyway. That's a South Park joke. If I die, bury me beside Rufus Ubuntu USB. Once the Linux desktop has come, when will we have the Linux car? Well, Linux has already been in cars for years. I don't know if people realize that. Linux has been in cars for years. You'd be surprised how many industries Linux is already in. When you need a reliable operating system that has even real-time operating system capabilities, it's usually a Linux they rely on. What are my thoughts on Apple's implementation on their memory integrity enforcement? Seems nice. Well, Apple needs to actually get off their high horse on a bunch of other things. Let me virtualize their operating system on regular hardware and actually run the OS on my own hardware, but, you know, that's never going to happen. They're going to stick to their archaic ways of, we're going to have the entire, you know, cathedral and own it, and then you must worship at the altar of Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak. I'm looking at building a server for a small business. Can you point me in the right direction? Well, if you're looking at for a small business, you're probably looking at a tower. Lenovo has some pretty cost-effective, what are they called? Think servers. Those are pretty great. Just get a tower machine, and then as far as like what you're trying to do with the business, it really depends on what the needs of the business are. So if you're talking about, it's probably going to need Windows Server to be a domain controller. You're probably going to want Windows... I don't think it's Small Business Server they do anymore. But you're going to probably want Microsoft Server, which is an expensive little software. I'd run that ideally as a virtual machine on the main Windows Server, because a lot of people don't know this, but when you get Windows Server licenses, you actually are qualified for... one hypervisor and 2 virtual machines. So what I would do, build the base OS, put Hyper-V on that, then run your guest operating system with your Windows Server operating systems in there. That way you can actually have your directory, your Active Directory in one, and then you have another Windows Server component and another, and you can split the duties. And the other nice thing is when it's a virtual machine, it's easier to back up. So if anything ever happens catastrophic, you can bring over the images from the virtual machines and rebuild things faster, because you only have to worry about the hypervisor. But yeah, it really depends on what route you need to go. Definitely if you're talking about a business, you do want to centralize identity and access management controls. An Active Directory helps with that. And then what you can actually do is, if you want to have that tied in, you can even tie an agent in for Okta, Duo, Jump Cloud onto the server, have an Active Directory sync, so that way you have Cloud SSO, and then you could have SAML and LDA, OIDC connections to your various devices, and you could even, start building things out. Will YouTube get me through it all? I'm actually going to have to code stuff. You're not going to have to code stuff, but you're going to have to understand a lot of the nuances and things like that. It really depends on what, you're trying to go and what the business needs are. You can get through a lot of this on Reddits and YouTube videos, but there's definitely going to be some elbow grease and a learning curve. But a server isn't really... It's not as important as the hardware as so much as figuring out what the business needs are, because then from the business needs, you can determine what the hardware is you're going to need for those business use cases. If they're going to need one or multiple boxes, how it's going to be structured, do they have multiple sites, what's the networking pattern going to look like, and there's a lot of things that go from there. What are your recommendations for a secure phone? I consider the Librem 5. Yeah, I have a Librem 5. It stays in my drawer here. Get a Pixel, install Graphene OS, or get an iPhone, call it a day, and just turn off things. Comp Sci Major Year 1. I feel like it would be a good project for my resume as well. Yeah, it's always worth it, even though I'm more of a Linux guy, to understand Active Directory in Windows. But yeah, there is definitely a bit of a learning curve whenever it comes to this kind of stuff. And I'm not planning to be on stream for maybe more than an hour or so, because as I was talking about in my Discord, my butt is in competition with SpaceX for the amount of propulsion I have been able to generate, with results that are just as catastrophic as a lot of their rocket launches. Can't you use LDAP instead of Active Directory in some cases at least? Yes, you can. But you can have an Active Directory server do both. You can even set up a trusted bridge between FreeIPA and Active Directory if you want. So you could have FreeIPA control the Linux side, and then Windows controls the Active Directory side, and then they just have a trusted bridge between each other to sync changes. But you can also go directoryless and use something like Jump Cloud, which is directory as a service, or Okta potentially. Any ideas when the Pixel 10 series will get Graphene support? No idea. You're going to have to check their releases and everything, and Android has really had a wrench thrown into things with the Android open source project, not pushing out as many updates as they used to, because Google's Googling it. Oh, you found my channel through the stream? Nice. Chief, calm down with the beans. This ain't beans. This ain't beans. This is a combination of Yitz deciding to make extremely high fiber muffins and Indian food. So, deadly combo. Alright, let's see. What did Vampire send me to go check out? And then I do at least want to check out one YouTube video I left over yesterday. Alright, so let's see this. You know what? It probably helps if you all have sound. I just realized that. And then we restart that. Okay, so what is this? Oh, Meshtastic. Those are tiny. I'm taking it those are DIY sets he made. Yep, that's Meshtastic. This is my little Meshtastic device over here. So I have an iPhone 14 Pro with iOS 26 lockdown mode, DOH Quad 9 server, Proton VPN. Is that good? Yeah, it's fine. I mean, I'd still recommend, you know, tin cans and string above all else, but, you know. Alright, let's pull up one of the videos, because it looks like Gamers Nexus is actually going to start doing Linux benchmarking in their stuff, and it looked like they brought Wendell on for that video. They're meant to look like pagers. Well, they pulled it off. Okay. So, let's,
Linux and Linux accessories.
Did he just really pull a Hank Hill reference out the gate?
Deeply. I, like, really hate them, and specifically Windows.
Yes.
And the thing
Preach to the choir here.
So we've wanted to do Linux testing for a while now. It is an enormous amount of work. I don't think the audience realizes. You kind of know, but...
It is an enormous pain.
Yeah, and so, like, we have automated a lot of our stuff. Those processes don't work in Linux. We could do it. We could also do it manually. But the real thing that made me go, okay, this is worth the investment to start benchmarking Linux for at least GPUs in some capacity, even as a one-off. The reason is recall. Windows recall terrifies me as a user. And I don't
really think Microsoft understands how much they worried a lot of people with that one feature.
Groundswell in the audience where it's like, all right, GN has started benchmarking things. It's working okay. You know, maybe there's a move for the audience, but
you heard it here. Year of the Linux desktop.
Yes.
That's been a running joke as long as I've watched him since Tech Syndicate.
Benchmark. Before that, this video is brought to you by Thermal Grizzly and their new Duronaut thermal paste. Thermal Grizzly claims its Duronaut paste is intended for long-term stability and endurance, focusing on paste longevity in addition to the usual performance focus. Thermal Grizzly's Duronaut paste comes with applicators and spreaders, and ships in numerous tube sizes.
I do like Thermal Grizzly paste. I use the Cryonaut.
And daily driven overclocks by enthusiasts.
I probably should repaste my stuff.
In the description below.
There's really, I think, a couple of good options, and it's really kind of two categories of options. And I know you hate it. It's like, the shortest answer I could give you is probably Bazide. Bazide is good because it is an immutable distro, and that is important because it is a big philosophical difference in how the system is managed. And then on the other side it's probably a good idea to use Arch or some sort of Arch-derived distro because that's where Valve is doing a lot of work.
Yes.
And some of the bugs that
Arch people need to go and touch grass.
And GameScope are related to kernel patches and stuff in the kernel to try to make it run more like Windows. And those will have, like, the distro and the choices the distro has made will have non-trivial impacts into your gaming benchmarks. And the kernel itself moves so fast that, you know, there's no, things could change week to week, especially when we're talking about stuff on the bleeding edge, and especially when we're talking about like bleeding edge GPU driver.
Well, and benchmarks specifically, which are more sensitive to changes.
Yes.
Than just using them. Yeah.
And historically,
which distro do I use on Pop OS?
If you look at what NVIDIA does and what AMD does, and now also comes Intel, they have all treated kernel versions differently. And Steam with Proton has also treated the distributions indirectly somewhat differently. So like with GameScope, there's this thing called it's like a spin lock primitive.
Wait, I just noticed this. What the hell computer is that in the background over there? I'm just curious.
There's a certain operation that a bunch of games on Windows use that is an atomic operation, meaning it only takes one step on Linux. I mean on Windows. On Linux, it's a two-step thing. There's not an apples to apples equivalent functionality in the Linux kernel. And so Valve and other thankless maintainers have been working on it. It's like, okay, let's add this thing to the Linux kernel that doesn't exist for any other reason other than to make it easier for people to run Windows applications with great performance on Linux. And depending on which distro you have and how much your distro cares about those kinds of things, you may or may not have the patch.
Right.
And sometimes that patch will ripple all the way up to, I'm looking at data in Mango HUD and this doesn't make any sense. And you're looking at Mango HUD as a program, but that's not actually where you should look to see if it's a problem. It'd be actually in the kernel
We need
logs.
to explain a few things. So, so from a benchmarking standpoint, when our team was testing the Steam Deck, the way we collected data was with Mango HUD and GameScope. And so these are utilities you can use to collect frame time data. And
I've used it in the past.
To evaluate the performance. So that's what you're talking about there. Patrick and I discovered a number of bugs in those, especially in early Steam Deck and Proton.
And they're still there. There's still more.
We were able to work around them, but the big danger that we kind of noticed in that testing process was, okay, there's ways you as a tester could use this software and not realize the data is very bad.
Yes.
And think that it's something else.
And the audience trying to reproduce your results are going to undoubtedly trip over a landmine. Even something as innocent as a week-to-week kernel version change is like, oh, we rolled in the patch that fixes the thing, and now it's 7 FPS faster.
Right. Or something that looks 7 FPS faster.
Linux dev is incredibly fast compared to Windows dev.
Software. If we're trying to set up benchmarking for Linux, I guess if we start with my objectives are I hate Windows. And I would like
That's a good goal.
Even if it's the smallest stepping stone in the world, some kind of stepping stone where people who are trying to move to Linux are like, okay, I at least have some charts with some resources of performance. Because in theory, talking about the GPU vendors, there may be excursions from their hierarchy in Windows in Linux because of the driver differences.
Yes. I think that in that context, I think Bazide is a really good choice because, and it's different, like Bazide is more different as a Linux distro than Arch Linux is different from Ubuntu, which is like, everybody I feel like knows that there's a huge difference between those two. Bazide is this idea of an immutable distro, which means that when you install a package or you change the state of your system, it defines and locks down every aspect of the state of your system. So you can't...
Which is a nice concept, but
and make a change that is like a you change. Like if you treat your
Someone
computer...
is writing a comment right now.
Yeah, it's...
Actually, you can do that.
You don't want to... Because the different ways that people nest in their computer, for lack of a better way to describe that, can also lead to performance variability.
Yes.
Yep.
It's like, I did this thing from this Reddit post I found from 7 years ago, and it's like, it didn't seem to do anything bad, and yet a couple of months later, it did something bad. And
That'll happen a lot.
Sort of helps you keep your system in a known state. This is also some of the philosophy that has led to like flat packs that you might have heard of, or
Love flat
other
packs.
packaging systems like that. So it's like you don't just download the flat, like Discord. You download the Flatpak version of Discord, or you want the Flatpak version of Steam.
Yep.
And
even though there are some issues with the Flatpak version of Steam,
but I do like Flatpak for Discord. And so it just depends on what kind of an application it is.
I definitely use the Flatpak for Discord more.
There's more work that you have to do to access the system.
Okay.
But it ensures more compatibility. Like VLC is a Flatpak. You can be assured that you've got the right versions of all the codecs, and generally the VLC Flatpak experience, or that kind of a thing in a
except
Flatpak
for the issue we had the other day, where the audio kept
is a
glitching
better
out.
experience because it's completely packaged and it's not dependent on other stuff in your system being completely compatible.
All right, so the base requirements, I think, for running benchmarks, it's going to be game compatibility, software for doing the measurements, which we have, likelihood of use in a real-world user scenario. So if we're testing like the perfect version of Linux for benchmarking, but nobody runs it, then that's not useful, obviously. We'd like to do SteamOS. Patrick and I have been trying to get that, like a desktop distro for that. Could do the handheld one, but it's not, like the goal of that would be, okay, this would be widely used and representative, and we know Proton does some really cool things through SteamOS, but that's not viable right now because they haven't given it to us.
Also, good old games, and there's another launcher that's not just for Steam that can launch good old games and a bunch of Epic and that is also not something you should sleep on because that gives you more interesting fine-grained control of what's going on with Proton and some other stuff with that.
Right. So in terms of if we want to represent the most currently the most likely user scenario is Windows, I would say in our audience, the vast majority of people interested in moving to Linux are interested at a scale of they probably have not really tried seriously or not in a long time, but they're feeling ready to because of what Microsoft's doing. And so with that,
yeah, that feels like a fair assessment.
So Bazite, it sounds like you're kind of in favor of. Why Bazite versus like say Arch?
Bazite is more accessible in the context of everything that you just named.
Don't start with Arch.
Users that are coming from a Windows or Mac OS, it provides a better out-of-box experience that's more consistent with what they expect. I would hope that as they get more comfortable with Linux and they use Linux, that they're more comfortable thinking about things in ways that Mac OS and Linux don't think, or Mac OS and Windows don't think about things, because Linux really could forge its own path, and a lot of the friction with Windows is that you don't come with the right mindset of it's not Windows Lite or True Value Windows. It's like fundamentally different.
Yes.
But Bazite also is fiercely militant about maintaining the state of the system, and that is good for new users because a lot of the problems that people trip over, it's like I knew enough to be dangerous. And then something happened, and then somebody that's trying to help you on a forum or help you troubleshoot.
It's the same thing with a lot of Windows users doing various random tweaks and then messing up their system.
Go to a forum, you're really only keeping the most like true enthusiast type users at that point. Most people are going to be like, I don't have time for this, and they're going to go back. What you're describing though, so if you're talking about like the OS, Bazite distribution, militantly maintaining a certain state, or at least attempting to do so, don't you get a bunch of, core Linux users who are like, no, that's not how Linux is supposed to work?
Well, you still have the choice about the applications. It's really the state of the system.
Yeah.
And it also does a good job doing the
most Linux users aren't like, don't use your system like that.
You want to use. So if you want to customize it,
just do it how you want, but
there's a specific place and way.
We make fun of Arch users and Gen 2 users.
But if you are, say, I want to install a C compiler and do all kinds of stuff with that, you really don't do that on the host operating system. It puts you in a little sandbox, and then you do that inside a sandbox. And that's kind of like the flat pack flow. Everything is about sandboxing and an onion of separation.
Do you feel like does Bazite still, the way it functions, does it still sort of maintain the general Linux principles of kind of this total openness?
Yeah,
you can.
It's just more railroaded, I guess, or guide rails maybe?
Yes, the guide rails are a bit militant, and so I find it limiting even because read the Flatpak thing. It's like you can install Steam as a Flatpak, but I don't like it because of the limitations that it introduces, and I know enough to not run that way.
Yeah, it's the same reason why I don't.
A little bit more enthusiastic. I think that an Arch-derived distro like Cashy, a Cashy OS is Arch, but it's Arch with a customized kernel. But you're still using AUR, and it's a little different than Manjaro.
Same with the Manjaro. Oh, you just mentioned it. Okay.
Oriented toward the kind of people that have the same philosophy that you're looking for, but it's guardrails off.
From a technical benchmarking standpoint, ignoring user scenarios, usability, what might we need to know from the perspective of needing to run?
I'm curious if he's going to bring up the Foreign-X test suite or other options that are already out there.
Compatibility is something like game compatibility or software compatibility across these different distributions we're talking about, Arch, Bazite, Manjaro, whatever else. Is that pretty uniform, or is it distro to distro, the games might break still.
Distro to distro, the games might break, but mostly in 2025 it's for unusual reasons.
Okay.
Right.
And the kernel, like the locking primitive I was telling you about, that is actually, there were a bunch of regular reviewers that weren't showing the performance that they should have because their kernel didn't have spin-lock patching. And so like there's a parameter that you pass, and so every time a game would try to do like a split lock contention, the kernel would warn you that's like, okay, this is supposed to be an atomic locking operation, but it actually took 2 steps, which is a violation of a locking step. And so you get a warning about that in the kernel. And
is that step then actually half the speed for that specific
yes,
step?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so that doesn't have necessarily an outsized impact on the game. Like it's not going to make the game run at half speed.
Right.
But whatever that was in the game, if you could micro benchmark that, then yeah, it's going to run bad. And also the overhead of logging that error is also bad. And so that's a really basic thing that a user could trip over. That there's no error, everything works. You just don't get the performance that you should.
What is Proton's role in all of this? So my understanding of Proton pretty much only relates to SteamOS and how we've tested it on the Steam Deck. How does it apply, or does it apply elsewhere?
Oh yeah, no. Proton provides like a bed and framework for these applications that are really designed
compatibility layer. That's all it is.
Interface with the Linux equivalent, and you want that layer to be as thin and lightweight as possible. But there are also a lot of exceptions and gotchas. So it is a Herculean Rube Goldberg machine of simulation and testing and trying to make it work. And so the versions matter a little bit.
Yeah, Valve has done a serious amount of work to get gaming on Linux to where it is now.
Valve and Steam give you the facility to, like, you want to try the current version of Steam or Proton, you want to roll back a version or 2 versions or 3 versions.
We noticed in testing.
That's actually why I keep a lot of Proton versions around
consistency
on my devices.
Was often better than on something like an Ally with the same, you can use similar hardware. We tested that too with, you could see it in high-speed capture, so it's not just like a capture utility defect, or between Windows and SteamOS, whether you're using PresentMon or Mango and GameScope, Proton was superior in frame time pacing a lot of times.
I will blow your mind even beyond that. Like it's like, yes, and the specific version of Vulkan, the version of the firmware that you've downloaded from Linux-firmware, which comes from AMD. Like these are binary blobs that come from AMD, and Linux sort of holds them out there on kernel.org where the kernel comes from, and then it disseminates to the different distributions at various speeds. A common problem is on something like Ubuntu, they're not updating the firmware quick enough. And so like we'll get a driver version or a kernel version, but then we don't have the corresponding firmware and it's supposed to be backward compatible, but it's not. And so all of the stuff that you tripped over has other hidden variables that would also be impacted in terms of kernel version, in terms of firmware, in terms of Mesa, in terms of the Vulkan backend. And then if you're on NVIDIA, it is a whole other enchilada of similar complication with a completely different set of libraries and a completely different team working on those things.
From a methodological standpoint, what controls do we need to be mindful of maintaining? Because like on Windows, I could give you all the controls and it will ignore BIOS at a system level. We've already done that. So, within the OS, what controls are there? What things do we need to be concerned about? Because you were talking about some testers previously not passing a certain flag through and affecting data. So that would be an example of something I want to be
Linux
aware
testing is a little bit more involved. I know that from what I've done.
Sometimes you're not aware of this kind of stuff until after the fact, but the things like, there's a bunch of high-level stuff like the version of Mesa and the version of Proton and the kernel version, which implies the driver version, and then what binary blob version the driver version expects. And so like you at least have to document all those things, because then it's like, oh, in this game, in like Deus Ex Mankind, for example, there was a recent regression where it had performed really well, and there was an update to fix something in Vulkan, and it made everything else absurdly fast, but it hurt that one game. And it's because of something that game was doing.
That even happens in a lot of game drivers too, for GPUs.
Do this.
Yeah, don't do this. And sometimes that'll come through in Proton.
I mean, that happens in Windows too, just with drivers from NVIDIA or AMD.
Yep, see?
Well, famously with the Zen 5 launch,
Yes.
a lot of games perform better on Linux than Windows because Windows had just deteriorated to the point that, Linux, even with all this overhead and all this machinery, is still faster.
That is a complicated topic, though. That's something I'll worry about more.
That is really interesting that, Windows has bogged it down so much that now Linux is faster.
Fair to present like for like frame rates in the same chart for Windows and Linux. It can be, but the concern is like, it's kind of like rendering DX11 versus DX12 versus, let's say a game supports all of them natively or something. It's possible that they're slightly different in the image, depending on how the API works. So,
and if I deploy, say, Bazzite on a Zen 2 system with a 720p screen, should I expect the same level of performance as a Steam Deck? And it's like, what kind of, but also probably not. I mean, maybe not. It depends on the level of optimization, because Steam has a lot of these low-level, and Valve is choosing a lot of these variables. And that's also part of the philosophy of like Bazzite, is they're trying to make all of this stuff move a unit at a time.
They also have fixed hardware. It almost becomes a console argument, right?
Yeah.
Where it's like, what's on there, so you can just build for that, I guess, for Valve.
Like, what if we encounter a Steam Deck that has an NVIDIA chip? And it's like, all bets are off.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we might, I've already been talking to Patrick about potentially running Bazzite, because a lot of our viewers have suggested it. So we might go that direction. I look forward to people linking this video on Reddit when they argue with people about which distribution people should try. And
CachyOS also, like, for me personally, that's what we're running. So they can come over to level 1 if they want to see CachyOS.
I'd like to see Pop! OS benchmarked in there.
I guess, I don't
Especially
know,
with the new Cosmic
I think
Desktop.
We're going to do our first run all by hand, the old way. And run it all through. I want to start with just GPU benchmarks, because as you know, a CPU test platform is far more complicated with the component swapping, different boards, different OS.
Yeah.
We'll start with GPUs and see how
Power state, power management governor. Okay, so this is another fun one. The system, you know how Windows has balanced and performance? Well, Linux has balance and performance. Linux also has this amazing openness for the performance governor.
Nice values and a bunch of other things.
Governor called like on demand. And so on demand tries to look at your workload, and it's like, oh, this is a bursty workload. And even though the processor can go to sleep, it takes a long time to wake it up. Let's not actually send it to sleep. And that can have an outsized impact on gaming performance that is completely silent and you don't know is there.
Okay.
And versus like...
Yeah, you have a lot more tweakability with Linux.
The benchmarks is to turn off power saving state type features, just because we don't, it's not about like, is it representative of a user scenario or not? It's about consistency run to run.
Yep.
So you don't just get like some run gets whacked for performance, and it tanks the average or something.
The good news is that Linux, because Linux really is a server operating system first and foremost. Like if you look at, is it the year of the Linux desktop? It's been the year of the Linux everything but desktop for like a decade now.
Oh yeah,
Linux
definitely.
Especially server.
Yeah, and server consistent performance is important, and so you can basically tell it, I want you to behave like a server, and it's like, I'm going to give you the best consistency I possibly can. And that's nice.
Yeah, and again, like it's just for me, it's just we've gotten to a point with Windows where the amount of spying is becoming concerning. And
you're only concerned now?
Don't trust any of these. My assumption is any service that collects data and stores it somewhere or can be accessed externally, it's not a matter of if it'll be breached, it's a matter of when.
So I'm going to pause for a second, even though we're close to the end. They have been talking about Microsoft collecting data for as long as I remember. Windows XP was probably the last one they didn't collect any data. Vista, okay, a little bit. 7 was definitely starting to collect a little bit of data, but not nearly to the extent. Now, 8 is where it really kicked off. So it's interesting now that people are only starting to wake up to what I was saying for a decade of, I would literally tell people like Microsoft is behaving like malware. I know a lot of people are going to look at me and be like, well, yeah, that's because you're a Linux user. No. Straight up, think about what malware often does and think about how Windows treats its users. Think about it.
Yeah. Well, and if you get to a point with the operating system where certain aspects of the operating system architecture, they just can't be bothered, which is what it seems to be from a user perspective, not just, the philosophy of like, this is what we want to do with the operating system. It's just like, this is the rotting undercroft that exists. It's like, that's concerning.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll put together our first Linux benchmarks pretty soon.
That'll be
Careful
interesting to
wrong
see from
fast.
Gamers Nexus.
I look forward to the controversy that is caused by you choosing the wrong distribution for us to test.
Excellent. I'm
Yeah.
excited beyond verbalization. Woo!
And otherwise, I guess if you want to check out Linux content, you have multiple channels where that is discussed.
Yes.
Level 1 Techs, of course, then you've also got Level 1 Linux.
Yeah, we tend to just talk about Linux because some
I've
people
been
want to-
following Wendell
Linux
since
only.
he was on Tech
I get
Syndicate
it.
with Logan
Algorithm, whatever. Sounds good.
years and years and years ago.
Check that out. We'll link it below. And thank you, Wendell, for joining
No,
me.
thanks for having me.
We'll see you all next time.
My ride's here.
Show off.
There goes your train of thought. Don't worry, we're going to do a bunch of retraining on game
Oh my
benchmarking.
God.
All the puns.
Requires
Yeah, so that'll be interesting to see that you now have reviewers actually looking at Linux performance in games and everything, which is a nice addition to the fact that I've been gaming on Linux for quite a few years now. Man, I've been gaming on Linux since, for myself, like 2007, 2008, I want to say. Is when I started like really trying to go into it. And then now it's interesting where I've been seeing people go from, wow, you're crazy for trying to use Linux, quit trying to make Linux a thing, to now people are actually starting to wake up and see what I've been trying to say for years, and there's finally smelling the coffee that, hey, Microsoft is just collecting a crap ton of your data, and they're now spying on you with this recall feature and other things, and now I have to get people to understand what I've been saying for a while. Like, on the surface, don't get me wrong, Microsoft Xbox Game Pass, really great idea. You pay a monthly fee, you get access to all these games. But then you need to look at what Microsoft is doing to the game studio industry, and they're closing down a lot of studios, and I would put my money and put my horse in behind Valve more than I would Microsoft if we're talking about titans of the industry, because Microsoft is looking at having them be the only one on the market, and they want you to use the Windows Store to download your, games for Windows, and then, basically just siphoning more money and data from you. Whereas Valve is like, yeah, we want this to work on, Windows and Linux, and here's a Linux operating system if you want it to run. We're not collecting data. If you want to run it on your own operating system, here you go. It'll be really interesting to see with the advent of kernel-level anti-cheat. I mean, advent of kernel-level anti-cheat, but I'm gonna theorize that eventually, and we were talking about this last stream, with multi-kernel approaches, you can actually see people run multiple kernels. So imagine, if you will, you have one kernel operate your entire operating system like you normally do now, and then you have the ability to run a separate kernel on just certain CPU cores, not like a virtual machine. You're running operating systems simultaneously with different kernels, and you can only have the kernel level anti-cheat on these specific kernels. You play the game, and then you shut the game down, and that kernel's gone. That, I think, would be a reasonable approach, because the issue I have with kernel level anti-cheat is that it's spying on you and that it is always on. That is my primary issue with it, because when you have a kernel level anti-cheat always on, that means even when you're not running the game, it's backdooring your system. That's my issue with it. That's why I see it as a security issue. Whereas if I only have kernel level anti-cheat isolated to certain system resources, I then can control, and then I can shut that entire part of the system down. That's not nearly as much of a problem. What I found really interesting was how both ByteDance and there was I forget what other company, they were both looking at multi-kernel approaches, and they're vastly different in how they're going about it, but it was interesting nonetheless to see that multi-kernel approaches are becoming the thing. It'll be interesting to see how that evolves over the years as well. because it's still relatively a new concept. So, yeah. I'm really excited to see what the future holds in terms of gaming on Linux and everything. And then before you know it, I'm going to be like, oh, you Linux guys are just so mainstream. I'm going over to FreeBSD and going to try gaming on that. I think it'll be really cool if we do get FreeBSD a little bit more popularity one day. As I've said before, I like Linux, don't get me wrong. It's a great all-arounder for a lot of the things I do, but if we're talking about networking appliances and things that I want to be a little bit more secure, FreeBSD all the way. That's the reason why I run pfSense in my router firewall at the network edge, because it is a little bit more secure, and PF is a lot better of a system than NetFilter and IP tables, and that's also the opinion of many other people out there, especially if you've ever had to run multiple block lists inside of IP tables. That becomes very cumbersome to update, and then eventually you have to start tacking on IP set to have sets of IP tables, and it just gets, really convoluted very fast if you've ever had to manage IP tables. Trust me. Whereas in PF, with pfSense or, any other BSD-based system, you start seeing, oh, yeah, this is a little bit easier to wrap my head around it. But, yeah. What's up, Marco? How's it going? And, like I said, I don't know how late I'm going to be streaming tonight. I do know that I at least wanted to promise y'all that I'd be streaming a little bit before I go to GurCon, because there will not be a stream Wednesday night. I will be traveling for GurCon, which is the cybersecurity conference in the Midwest, similar to DEF CON. So I'll probably be on for like another hour or so at least. We're going to get into some gaming on Linux right now. I am having Borderlands run the shaders that need to be processed for it, because there was apparently another update. Go figure. There's always an update. Although it's kind of interesting if you click around, then yeah. Oh, they got new cosmetics and stuff like that apparently. So, yeah. Anyway. It'll be interesting to see what happens with gaming on Linux over the next few years, especially because Windows has just been such... I think Microsoft has really overplayed their hand. It's 2:30 a.m. here, so probably should be asleep by then. Yeah, you probably should be if it's 2:30, but I appreciate you coming by. I will never, be unappreciative of the community dropping by and saying hi. I know there's a good chunk of my community that is honestly overseas. I actually looked at my analytics. I think from what I saw, as much as 1/3 of my community is overseas. So I'm actually trying to cater more on Sundays at least to be on sooner, so many people can actually join during those times. But, I also have to balance my, personal life and everything, so I'm doing my best that I can. I mean, let's remember, content creation is just a side gig that I'm doing. I doubt I'll ever be able to, do this as a full-time gig. I do like actually working in cybersecurity. Maybe one day I can do well enough and do independent consulting and set my own hours and things like that, but, cross that bridge once we get to it. How many hours have I put into Borderlands 4? 13 hours. Interesting. So let's get into the mood and set the scene. Got some music. Fort Minor. You know what was amazing when I talked to a lot of people? They didn't know that Mike Shinoda was Fort Minor. Just found this channel off my recommended page and here for the rants. Nice! Thanks for joining, buddy. Happy hacking. You missed some of the rants. It's a light rant day, because we do have a cybersecurity conference in a few days. But we're going to, of course, get into gaming on Linux, and you're going to hear me rant about the crappy performance optimization they've done in this game. Yeah, I started watching you like 3 years ago on TikTok when I was in Central America, and now I live in Europe, and here we are. Nice. You're the only one from Algeria? Believe it or not, there's actually been several from Algeria. I still can't believe how crappy the performance is on this. Although, what's-his-face is going to tell me that the CEO of this company is like, you should just get a better computer. A 3070 and a 5950X should be more than enough on a 1080p monitor. Instead, we have to have stupid frame generation just to make this run decently. %, luck, 20% skill, 15% concentrated power of will, 5% pleasure, 50% pain, and 100% reason to remember the name. So if I remember, I'm only like 1/3 through the campaign. You see these little stutters here? This blows my mind that this, oh yeah, hold on. If I remember, we can enable kernel preemption, which allows for a little bit better performance. Just a little, but not much. Wait, am I really walled? I was fear the only slow rant on about the anti-cheat implementation, how it could create a kernel-level backdoor for companies to potentially spy on you. Well, yeah, but with multi-kernel as a potential option, it's going to be great. Hey, thank you for the follow, Def Can't Game.
This one's got some zip.
Surfing the Linux tag. Nice! Welcome! And happy hacking, bud. If you can't tell, we only do Linux gaming around here. And cybersecurity discussions and Linux talks in general. Oh, I should probably switch to the shock. There we go.
See that? That's a little thing called marksmanship. Might give it a try next time.
Background is Blue Team and IT Specialist. Yeah, I'm a cybersecurity engineer. That's my background. Nope, nothing there. I am really not a fan of these stutters in this game. So when is Gearbox gonna actually optimize the damn game? Like, this is a cell-shaded game. It shouldn't have these weird performance issues. Finding Ryuk ransomware in someone's network, woo. Yeah. My claim to fame is I got bored during COVID and...
These order types just don't bleed right, you know?
A bunch of people just followed my content. Never planned to be a content creator, but here I am, and then all my friends are like, you should get on streaming too. The problem is I succumbed to peer pressure with my friends.
Ready to unload!
You got a little too focused on the guys up top. Come on, come on. But yeah, the community's here so that a lot of people can connect together. That's why I ended up building a lot of this on TikTok and the Discord server and all that, so a lot of people could find each other. And it's been very fun running into quite a few of my community when I was at DEF CON. Oh, DEF CON is definitely something I'd say is worth checking out. It's a little bit of an expense, of course, but definitely worth it. I've been there 3 times. I have a lot of friends that I only see once a year there.
Hasta luego, friend!
Okay, let's see all this.
Come on.
Well, looks like we got us a city slicker.
Keep running into items and forgetting that they're there. Can't take the heat? Get out of the kitchen.
Boundaries, folks. It ain't wrong.
I mean, I do Python dev work and server building these days at work, but now that I'm trying to build a home lab, I'm second guessing my server choice and all that, so that's been a thing. Yeah, you'll always second guess your things when you build your home lab. I do Python at work. I also terraform quite a few of the things. Terraforming is something I've definitely gotten heavily into. I haven't built a cloud lab, but eventually I want to do that.
Someone, you was dirt talking to.
Orden cortado.
I don't know.
We've got company. Order soldier spotted.
Away, I must feel like a monster. It's sad that Juice WRLD was on this track because he was actually a really promising dude from when I listened to his tracks. Ooh, literally had 1 hit point. Keep forgetting I have my special ability. Okay, where's the other dude at? Yeah, Juice recorded a ton, But he was, like, still at the beginning of his career. It's unfortunate. Definitely a kind of scenario where tinkering and testing and things might be cool. You might learn stuff and even save a brick. Yeah, I know home labbing is what actually led me into the career that I have as many various skills, and they've even learned at work. If I don't know it, give me time and I'll figure it out. Like, I came into work not knowing a thing about AWS or, what was it? Terraform. CI/CD pipelines, and now I'm the guy doing all that, to the point that my architect leans on me for a lot of the AWS and terraforming stuff because he's single-threaded on a lot of things. Nope. The game off Linux? Yeah. This is Linux. It's on Linux. Because everyone kept asking me, are you running this on Linux? But I only do gaming on Linux. Well, I pretty much do almost everything on Linux. The irony is the Streambox is running Windows 10 Enterprise. Actually, it's Windows 11. No rare weapons? Okay. Okay.
You've made it to the terminus range. Excellent. Violictor maintains an iron grip here, so you won't get his command bolt without help. You'll find the augers at Belton's Bore, in the heart of the mountains. Don't expect the warmest welcome, though.
Oh, those are my dudes, okay.
The augers are an insular and traditionalist people. The timekeeper gives them some measure of autonomy as long as they keep the Ordnite flowing from their minds. But some among them are willing to...
Oh, come on. Is that all you got, little guys?
By Defiant Calder. He's got a fiery streak that the elevators lack.
You find in the crags of Terminus, Old Hunter. Violictor will dissect you without mercy. Though he may have had a...
It's on Linux, I know, because he told me without having me to join the stream. Find it interesting how they have a grill and it's like, oh yeah, there's ammo. We were just having, you know, roasted 5.56. Let's get into some trouble. Okay, that dropped the shields. Nope, nothing. Something similar happened to me at work. I knew a little bit about QA. I hadn't done anything, but they asked me, and I said, give me a few days to learn how I manage QA testing, code sniffs, code scan, and testing automations. Nice. Yeah, a little curiosity will go a long way in your career. Everyone thinks that, oh, well, I can learn this from a book, or I can learn this, you know, from going to class, and I'm like, nope. You're gonna learn a lot more just going out in the open and just saying, what's this do? Alright, let me tinker. Okay, it looks like we got a click and a half.
Oh good, order forces! To what do I owe the displeasure?
Oh yeah, in this career, you're not dead until you stop learning. Everyone knows loaded guns, you can't be outdone, can't be outdone. Yeah, I always tell a lot of people when they want to get into this career, I'm like,
These order types.
if you're not the type of person that's going to be willing to spend time after work to improve your craft, don't get into IT or cyber. And everyone's like, well, it's unfair, you know, to expect that, you know, you're saying you're going to have to devote, like, an extra, like, 10 to 20 hours outside of work. And I'm like, what do you think doctors and lawyers and dentists and all professional trades really have to do? I mean, even electricians have to go relearning things. Lawyers have things change that they have to get continuing education every year. Doctors still have to go and keep up to date with the latest technologies and procedures and advancements. In my throat, it's all I ever. Go back and I'll take it on the other side.
Oh good, order forces. To what do I owe the displeasure?
Take it on the other side. Take it on. Take it on.
See that? That's a little thing called marksmanship. Might give it a try next time. Well, looks like we got us a city slicker.
Oh, come on. There's only one of me, and y'all can't give me a challenge?
Bringing out the big guns.
Take it on the other side. Take it on the other side. Take it on. Take it on. How long will I slide? Don't mind me, just, you know, killing things in Borderlands, the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Oh, we still got one more? I was getting a little low on ammo. Oh. You want a sniper battle? I can give you a sniper battle. I know you're there somewhere. Let's see, can I hop up here?
Sorry, you had a little schmutz there.
Get closer! Like a good leader and role model! Stop it!
The hell? I guess I'll take a look at you in a sec. Find it funny you got like Porter Jones and that. Self-taught and empirical learner and almost everything you do. Yes, Tinker has come a long way. Now I'm at uni, and while most people are starting to learn, I hold a senior back-end engineer position. I'm still learning. Oh yeah, you're never gonna stop learning in this field. Is there anything up here? Nope. Sometimes get bored in class and start doing projects just because. Yeah, I used to do the same thing when I was in college. Maybe eventually I'll go back and get a bachelor's, but my degree has really not done crap for me that my experience already had, because I went to college when I was already several years into the field. Because my family was, you know, stuck up and basically like, you're never going to amount to anything without a degree. And I kept saying, no, just let me go for certs and all that. Oh, it's coming. It's just a long way down. Rest of our lives. Rest of our lives. Going up.
Here comes the pain! That's a little thing called marksmanship. Might give it a try next time.
Come on, you damn synth. Gotcha. Thought you were down. Should have checked the health. Oh, you dropped your grenade, buddy. Perfect time for Metallica to come on. Yeah, I knew you were there. The game stutters are just annoying as hell, though, I have to say. They need to optimize this game better. Very satisfying when someone you know it's great at what they does and has more years experience acknowledges that you know you're talking, even when you don't have a degree. Yep. Was there something that ran over that way? I could have sworn it was. Oh, it was these birds, probably. Anywhere I roam.
Someone brought some shine to the scuffle.
You're down. I knew it, there was a guy behind me. That's one reason why I like these headphones. I got some good positioning. There we go.
Oh good, order for it. To what do I owe this pleasure?
Oh, you want some too, buddy? I got enough for you. Let's see what's up here. Some SMG ammo. You know, I still can't believe how poorly optimized this game is. I remember playing Borderlands 3 on my Ryzen 5700U APU and running perfectly fine. And this game is running like shit on a 3070 at 1080p. You have to use frame generation just to be able to do anything decent. But you hear me complain about that like every stream. But overall, I do like the game. It's just they didn't do enough to optimize it. Oh, nope. Just a regular item.
Gonna try that relocating thing. Yo, help me!
I am one hell of a shot if I do this so myself.
I'm getting pretty close on this one. Because I'm down to 15 life points if that shield gives out. At least until my next health re-up.
These robo-grunts ain't so tough!
Come on. Give me a stim, give me a stim, give me a stim. Stim achieved. God damn it, Barack. Really? Really? You're a good boy, but not now. Not now. Daddy's in the middle of killing robots and shit. You're a good boy, though. He's a good dog. Oh shit, my backpack's full. Let's see, what level items do we got? Ooh. Let me see. We may have some better stuff than what I currently do. On use grants increase melee damage. On use grant in the next shot by 200%. See you later, Marco. Have a good night. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, thank you for stopping by, Marco. I appreciate it. Have a good night. Okay, so where are we looking for... Oh, we got a bunch of stuff that's marked for junk. Okay, so... Enhancement. Hard charger guns with Ripper license parts. Devon, let's go to heaven. There's a lost soul and I'm be mine again. Season, I'm a believer. Word of one immortal, death will be of eternity. Okay, so spring payload, same. Each grenade bounces towards nearby enemies. Grenades teleport to their destination. Okay, I like that. Wow, that almost took me out, even after they were all gone. Oh, I found a bolt. Don't know what they do, but I got it. Oh, to me, of eternity, at least your lives are in another fire. Oh, come on. That's all you're gonna do to make me pay? Sounds more like I'm getting a refund than I'm getting paid. I can be mean. I can be angry. You know I could be just like you. I could be cool. I could be stupid. You know I could be just like you. You were there to guide me. You were only in my way. Oh. Got allies out here? Interesting. Alright, let's check the map. That was a pretty quick takedown. Aww. Look at the little guy try to hit me from that range. That's how you do it, bud.
Order eliminated. Looks like we got us a city slicker.
Okay. Yeah, you're getting a little bit closer. I don't know why. It doesn't even matter how hard you try. Keep that in mind as a honest rhyme to explain in due time. All I know, time is a valuable thing. Watch it fly by as the pendulum swings. Watch it count down to the end of the day. The clock ticks life away. It's so unreal. Couldn't look down below. Watch the time go right out the window. Trying to hold on. You didn't even know. Wasted it all after what you got. Kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of a time I tried so hard. Got so far. Okay, you got lucky with that one. Nope, missed that.
Well, looks like we got us a
That's
city
so
slicker.
hard. And the way you were mocking me, acting like I was part of your property, and everything all the times you fought with me. I'm surprised it got so. Things aren't the way they were before. You wouldn't even recognize me anymore. Not that you knew me back then, but it all comes back to me. Kept everything inside, and even though I tried, it all fell apart. What it meant to me will eventually be a memory of the time I tried so.
Maybe next time, show some respect, huh? Does your arrogance know no bounds?
Didn't even need the round on ya. Okay. Where's the next one? I got some kind of radioactive damage, I guess, there. Keep forgetting I have this little shotgun here. Nice. Plenty of ammo there. I don't like those invisible walls where it's like, oh yeah, you can go in this area over here, but then there's nothing there. What's this orb up the top?
This'll be fun. You see the look on their face?
Did they fix the optimization issues? No. They fixed it, like, slightly, but not that well. Yeah, they definitely did not fix the optimization issues on this. What sucks is because it's kind of a decent game, but they did not optimize this. Like, it seems like everyone running Unreal Engine 5 on their stuff is running it horribly unoptimized. Motherfucking night. Gee, happy God, I'm only getting colder with my face and the demon inside.
I mean, we got to stop here.
Trying to figure out how to get up there. Because I want to get that orb. Let go inside. That demon inside. Oh, yo. Okay. Any higher? Nope. Oh, I pretty much got full ammo. Okay.
My name is Nereid, and I am many things. A protector,
Nice.
a sister,
Got that
a
finished.
siren. But a
Let's see. We'll get more shotgun ammo.
all else, right now, I'm lost. I can only hope that by looking back on the circumstances of my arrival, I might find some clue that will lead to my escape. It started, as these mysteries so often do, with a vault. I can only hope it will end differently.
Alright, let's see. I need to find one of those. Need to find one of those vending machines. What's up, vampire? Damn it, did I just shoot myself?
Well, don't look so surprised.
There we go. I'm beginning to feel like a rat bot. Yeah, Chief shot himself. Chief shot myself in the face. Oh wow, I'm only half a click away from the goal. I was just goofing around. Rap gun. I'm up to the backlog. Why are you running towards the gunfire?
The dawn of a new age is upon us, Father. An age free from the
Thank you.
hypocrisy of heritage.
Yeah, I guess when you play Tribes 2, you can, if you've ever seen Tribes 2 and how fast-paced that game is, this is nothing.
The renegades and mutineers can't fail to join their listless ranks. Do not be cowed to conforming with their fallen ways. Declare your independence by staying right. A new world.
Boundaries, folks! It ain't rocket surgery. Ready to unload!
Tribes 2 is torture compared to Linux. I played Tribes 2 on Linux. I was playing it on Linux years ago, too. You can still play Tribes 2 now. I should probably dump, at least make a few spaces. Alright, let's hump our way up.
To collect these cycles or deny tithe.
Let's give this a few more minutes.
Ah, Warden, this is all that we have for you. This is barely enough for
About a quarter click.
synths. Unfortunately, with the exile of our mining clave, it has been difficult to reach quotas. No excuses. I will speak with Vile Lichter about this. Who do you think exiled the miners?
Let's at least clear this mission out before we call it a night.
It's the Vault Hunter. Kill them!
Was that the Joker? Where?
Stop this, Outlander!
What they fit you with, plastic?
Yeah!
What have you done?
Order dead on our mountain. They will blame us.
The voice actor? Maybe. Wait, isn't the Joker Mark Hamilton, if I'm not mistaken? Mark Hamill? Not Hamilton.
Caused us some trouble, Outlander.
It's only trouble if you let it be trouble. Join the Crimson Resistance, and I can help you in the fight against the Order. Already got the Outbounders on board too.
Absolutely not! Defiant Calder was exiled for such talk.
This, Calder, where can I find him?
Likely dead.
Return to the mountain. May he learn something from the stones. He and his fellow exiles were attempting to take back their clave home from the Order. If you feel like dying alongside them, you'll find him in the Cuspids.
Hey, Zadra! You weren't kidding. The Augurs aren't exactly bursting with hospitality.
Understandably, Vile Lictor has them afraid of their own shadows. And I'd guess your arrival coincided with a minimum of, say, 5 explosions. But don't be fooled. Some augurs aren't so willing to bend the knee to Lictor. From them, you'll get a very different reception.
Find Defiant Calder. Alright. Alright, let's see. Where's the map for Augur Shrine?
Vault Hunter?
Yes, I saw that you did in the dark. All right. Well, I think that's a good time for me to call it a night. And I don't think I will be streaming tomorrow. I am probably going to be getting ready for GurCon, and so there won't be any stream on Wednesday. And then I should be back in time for movie night over on the Discord this Saturday. So thank you all for joining me. Make sure, if you haven't already, to follow me on all of my socials. The Kick, the YouTube, the Twitch, the TikTok, the Blue Sky, the Mastodon. And then, of course, don't forget to join the Discord and the Matrix servers as well. We have a nice little community over there. Gaming, Linux, professional IT, cybersecurity, tinkering, radio. You got a bunch of different ham radio operators, Meshtastic operators, 3D printing, all that kind of stuff. So thank you all for joining me. Stick around for the raid if you're ever on Twitch. I love all of you. And stay safe and happy hacking.